Okay, today we're going to talk about nanomesh and also bounding boxes. Bounding boxes have a couple of uses. For example, if we were making a mesh door and we wanted to script it to pivot around a point in LSL, that pivot point would be the center of the prim or the bounding box. So we need to be aware of bounding boxes and how we can manipulate mesh to get to the shape we want but keep the pivot point where we want. Also, this is useful with kind of like the equivalent of nano prims, where we want to shrink below the SL sizes. So let's just hop into SL and have a look at what I mean. What I've got raised here is a selection of tortured nano prims. Penny is going to be doing some work with prim torturing, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but what is a nano prim? A nano prim is a prim that is smaller than 0.01 meters, smaller than 10 centimeters. Okay, so if we edit one of these, well actually first of all let's just res a cube. So let's build a cube. Okay, nice big cube. Let's put a color on it so we can kind of see it a bit better. Okay, now if I was to shrink that cube, stretch both sides, and I shrink, you see it'll only go so far. Let me just zoom into this. Okay, it'll only go down to a minimum dimension, and that dimension is 0.01 meters. Okay, now some of these prims down here, let me just drop this cube down so we can have a look. Some of these prims down here are a lot smaller than that 0.01, and the way we can achieve that is by doing some torturing. So if I was to say slice the prim, okay, you'll see that we knew the original dimension was 0.01 by 0.01. Okay, but we see the height of it by me slicing it has got lower. So also if I was to pass cut that prim, we're now getting a prim that is smaller than 0.01, and that is known as a nano prim. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on prims, but you can see we can get a lot smaller than 0.01 by torturing. Okay, now sometimes we want mesh smaller than this. So how small can a mesh go? So let's hop into Blender. Let's get rid of that default cube, and I'm going to add a mesh cylinder. Not cylinder, a sphere, sorry. Okay, so there's our mesh sphere, and I'm just going to quickly export that. Collider, let's call it a sphere. I'll drop it on my desktop so I can find it, and selection only, export to Collider. Okay, now if we look at this sphere real quick, we'll see its dimension should be 2 meters, which there it is there, 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. Okay, so let's hop back into Second Life, and let's upload this sphere. So upload mesh model. I think it was that one. Yes, it is. Okay, I'm not going to do anything, just going to do a quick upload. And call it sphere mesh. Actually, that might throw an error, so let me just delete that. Sphere mesh, upload. And there we go. Okay, I'll go to my reset items. There is my sphere mesh. I'll res it out, and if we edit it, we'll see that it's a default blend 2 meters, which I didn't change. Now if I stretch this down, okay, it'll only go so far. Let me just zoom into it. And if we look at the dimensions of that, the smallest we can get it is 0.01, so 1 meter across. Okay. Right. Now sometimes we will want something smaller than that. For example, jewellery. If we were making diamonds for jewellery, let me just delete this. There we go. If we were making diamonds for jewellery, now 1 centimetre is about 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm sure there's a lot of girls out there who would love to have diamonds 3/8 of an inch across, but they're not that common. So let's go back into Blender. Let's start a new scene. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this default cube. Okay, let me just turn screencast keys on here. Okay, and I'm gonna add a mesh circle. Okay, I've got 10 vertices, that's enough. And I'm just going to quickly model a diamond. So I'm going to extrude these down on the z-axis. Okay, scale them to 0. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to extrude on the Z up slightly, scale it in slightly, extrude up slightly, scale it in slightly, then I'm going to make a face there. Okay, that face I'm going to triangulate, so Control F, triangulate faces. Okay, so we've got quads and tris in this. Okay, now if we look at the dimensions of this diamond, we're about 2 meters on the wide. That's the widest point. Okay, now if I was to scale this down, I can scale it. Let me just zoom into a bit. I can scale it further than 0.01. Okay, you can see there I'm now at 0.07. Make sure I don't lose it. I can actually scale it down 0.001. Okay, but what's going to happen is inside Second Life, that's not going to upload, and if it does, you're not going to see it. It's not going to upload anyway, smaller than 0.01. So let me just scale this up a bit more. Okay, so what we have to do is manipulate the bounding box. Now a bounding box is the smallest box that your item will fit into. Okay, so if I come down here and I have a look at the bounding box, you can see that it does in fact have this box that this can fit into. Okay, so what we need to do is make this box bigger. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, let me go into an orthographic view first of all. I'm going to go to front ortho, and I'm just thinking about scale here, so I'm just going to scale it up to about 0.1. There we go. Okay, now if we look at the bounding box should correspond exactly with the outer dimensions of this. So if we have a look, there it is. Okay, so let's go back. Right, now if this is 0.01 and I actually want this about half the size, okay, what I can do is I can go into edit mode. I can grab one vertex. Okay, now if I grab that one vertex and I'm going to extrude that single vertex, so E on a Z and extrude it up. Okay, I'm approximately, actually probably a bit more, I'm approximately twice the height now of this diamond. Okay, but this isn't good enough. We need to add a face up here. So while I've got this single vertex selected, I'm just going to control click, and that creates another vertex, and control click, which creates a third vertex. Okay, I'm going to use circle select and select all of these three vertices. Okay, and I'm going to use the F key to make a face, and you see it makes this kind of detached face up here. We can go ahead and delete this edge if we like. So let's delete that edge. Okay, and we've still got this face up here, so I'm going to select this face by selecting all three vertices. Okay, and I'm going to scale this face to 0, S0. Okay, now when we look at the bounding box, let's see what happens. I need to be in object mode to see it, sorry. Okay, you can see that the bounding box is now twice the height of the diamond. Okay, so I also want to make this bounding box wider this way, so I'm going to select this vertex. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to extrude it across. Okay, control click, there we go, and control click, select these three vertices, make a face, scale them to 0. Okay, I can then select this edge and delete it. Okay, now if we look at our bounding box, you can see it's twice as high and twice as wide. Okay, still very narrow. Okay, so let's go to our side view here and get this narrow side, and let's go back into solid view. Vertex select this vertex here, extrude on the y-axis about twice as wide, somewhere about there, and again control click and control click to create two more new vertices. Circle select those three vertices, F key to make a face. I can scale to 0, S0. Okay, I can control tab to bring up my mesh select menu, select the edge, delete this edge. Okay, and back into object view. Now you can see that the three faces I created are invisible because they're scaled to 0. But if we look at the bounding box, you see the size of the diamond here. If we look at the bounding box, it's about twice as big. Right, if I go into not texture, solid view and vertex select, okay, you can see that basically I've extended the bounding box by bringing some geometry out past the mesh. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and bring this into Second Life and see what we can do with it. So file export, Collada, let's call it Nano Diamond. And I'll save that on my desktop. Selection only, export. Okay, so let's go back into Second Life now and upload this thing. So wrong key, build upload mesh model. Let's find my Nano Diamond. There it is. Close this out. You can see the diamonds there. Okay, I'm not going to optimize this in any way. I'm just going to upload it. I forgot to change the model name, so let's call that Nano Diamond and go ahead and upload it. Right, let's res this out. Got inverted normals on it, but oh well. Let's have a look at this diamond and let us rescale it down to its smallest. So stretch, and you can see where my bounding box is much bigger. Now when I go to rescale this, the diamond will shrink inside this bounding box. Okay, so if I bring this down to 0.001, there you see I've nearly lost it. It's that small. Okay, that diamond in actual fact is probably about 0.005. It's about half of the 0.01, and that's how we can make nano mesh